Did Arizona have visitors from another galaxy, or was it a military exercise? Last night, people all over Arizona say they saw a UFO. People say they saw strange lights all over the state. A Paradise Valley resident caught these unexplained lights on videotape. Take a look at that. Well, they appear to be near South Mountain. You can see 3 lights there, and just one by one, they're going to disappear. See that?
Aside, an unexplainable series of strange bright lights seen over the skies of Arizona gets a lot of people wondering what the heck they saw. UFO watchers are calling it a dramatic event.
And folks who witnessed this strange sighting are calling it simply unexplainable.
It is very rare for thousands of people to call and report seeing the same lights in the same spot at the same time. It happened last night, and eyewitnesses who saw it say it's like nothing they've ever seen before.
Observer reported that when one turned, they all turned together, as if by the same command.
Even a commercial airline pilot here at Sky Harbor Airport reported seeing the lights last night. He radioed the tower just after takeoff, telling them that the object was directly above him. That means that air traffic controllers in the tower should have picked the object up on their radar screens. And yet they say they saw nothing.
We checked with the FAA today, we checked with Sky Harbor, and we checked with Luke Air Force Base, and there's been no official explanation of those strange bright lights last night.
Phoenix, Arizona, 1997. It began March 13th. Residents had observed strange lights in the sky for the preceding 3 nights, which were captured on this short tape. Then at 9:45 p.m. on the 13th, thousands of people witnessed this amazing display. Tom King, a local resident, captured it on tape.
Major sighting here.
I've never seen it. Look at that.
This isn't like the stuff I'm normally seeing. This is extraordinary. You look at it and go, that's not an aircraft. We were perplexed the whole time trying to figure out, what is this thing?
As the tape rolled, 5 lights blinked on in sequence, offering an outline of a flying object as it hovered near the mountains. Bill Hamilton, a resident, was with King as he taped the lights.
This was a very significant mass sighting because at least one of these objects was seen traveling down diagonally the entire state of Arizona. Thousands of witnesses, several videotapes, hundreds of phone calls were made to local television stations, to local police stations.
That same evening, insurance salesman Mike Kristen was at home with his wife when he recorded this astonishing video of the same event from 40 miles away.
I saw a single point of light farther to the east on the mountains than I've ever seen before. All of a sudden, another sequence of lights started to form to the right of it, and I happened to be catching everything. This whole entire sequence came on.
They're very large, larger than any light in the city.
Take a look at the footage. I'm not telling you what they are. If it was an alien spacecraft, there's something out there that they can't defend us against.
Amazingly, a 3rd video was shot simultaneously, showing the same lights going out in order.
It's an amazing thing. This is a huge sighting that happened.
By inputting the video into a computer, image processor Jim Dilatoso was able to determine what the Phoenix UFOs looked like.
Now we have 3D mountains and topology that we can swing around and look at it from different angles. We feel very certain that the object, tip to tip, is more than a mile long.
National newspapers soon carried front-page stories of the enormous V-shaped object seen over Phoenix. But the local military base did nothing to calm the fears of the 10,000 residents who were startled by what they saw. A Phoenix councilwoman, Frances Barwood, has called for an investigation into the strange lights.
There's people that were active military that were afraid to say publicly what they saw because they had been told that it would be the end of their career.
Barwood seems to believe some evidence at least points to a close encounter of the very unusual kind, evidence like a taped conversation between a so-called Air Force airman and the director of the National UFO Reporting Center. Westmoreland played excerpts from the tape few people have heard.
One of the panelists stated that they have a visual on it, they've got gun camera film of it, they have no radar tape of it. It scared the hell out of them.
Skywatch International says what witnesses described did not fit conventional aircraft. At least one caller agreed.
I know what we saw. It was definitely not from this planet.
Demands for an explanation got so great, even national news programs picked up on the story.
Weird happenings in the skies over Phoenix recently. Hundreds of people in the Phoenix area, indeed all over the state, reported seeing something rather unusual hovering in the night sky. And no one seems to be able to explain what it was.
And now, as Brian Rudy reports, there is that incident this year on the 13th of March.
One thing not in question, a lot of people saw and some took pictures of something that looked like this cluster of bright lights over Phoenix. Witnesses who claim to have had a better look described a delta-shaped craft. This family says it flew slowly and silently over their house.
The tip literally came right across our street, and the right arm went right over us, just like a subway train, watching it go by. The first light, the second light, third light.
The first report of a strange flying object came at about 8:20 that night from a former police officer in Paulden, Arizona. Over the next 40 minutes, people gave similar reports of an object along a 200-mile route south to Phoenix and Tucson.
That's where thousands of people saw more than stars in the night sky. Doug Bruckner has more on the most amazing UFO sighting ever in tonight's Top Copy.
If ever there was something in the sky that could shut skeptics up once and for all, it's these strange lights that appeared so ominously over Arizona.
These lights were brilliant golden amber in color, and they had a triangular formation.
Thousands of dazed desert dwellers saw this UFO, and they are bombarding authorities with panic calls.
And why isn't our government giving us the answer? The Phoenix Police Department was swamped with calls that night, but even they were left in the dark about the lights.
To my knowledge, there was nothing that we ever came up with an explanation. And the question is still out there. What was it, and has anybody solved that mystery?
There are a few things that I think we can rule out. I think we can rule out any kind of conventional aircraft, any kind of rocket or missile. I think we can also rule out a meteor or any kind of natural object coming into the Earth's atmosphere.
The same kinds of objects were also reportedly seen in Colorado and the Caribbean just last month.
They're reporting objects of similar shapes. They respond or fly in similar manners. That's very interesting to get the same story from roughly 20 countries around the world.
If Earth is being visited by people from other places, from other worlds, from other dimensions, they're speeding up the process right now. Something major is happening.
Is it a coincidence that our American president seemed interested in UFOs? Before he was president, Jimmy Carter saw a UFO and even reported it to authorities. Subsequent presidents also expressed their concern about visitors from outer space.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Astronaut Story Musgrave feels that whether or not the government has covered up the existence of UFOs, our nation is ready to handle the truth, whatever that might be.
I think the public is ready to accept any information. I think the public is ready to know if anyone has visited us. They can accept that, and they want it.
Tomorrow is March 13th, not a holiday, just another Monday. But 3 years ago, it was a night to remember.
Something happened over Arizona that some experts say is the most important UFO sighting of all time. Only on Fox, the Fox 10 investigators reveal a new witness and new facts about that night. Here's Steve Filmer.
There's a lot more to the story than just March 13th.
This is not video from the night of March 13th, 1997.
I don't know what they are, but I know that they are.
A Paradise Valley doctor says she took this footage March 5th. And nearly 2 months before this, she snaps these photos.
As I'm ready to shoot the 3 in a row, suddenly 6 lights across appear in an equidistant line. It was startling. Not only was it a massive span, more than a mile wide, in retrospect, it was the same formation in the same location as March 13th, but this was January 23rd, 97.
This is what many saw and videotaped on March 13th and what started all the fuss. Here, a simple rendering of what that thing may have looked like. Huge, moving, hovering, changing.
All I know is that as I saw the stars being wiped out,
one by one by one as this big triangular black mass moved through the sky. It was just tremendous.
Some reported orange lights, some reported white lights. Some said 5 lights, others said 7.
I'm really taking a chance here, I am, and I know that I am coming forward.
Dr. Lynn, a Paradise Valley physician licensed with the state, says she's seen such things around the Phoenix Valley as far back as 1995.
Being criticized, being ridiculed, being discredited. It was a scary proposition to come forward, to say the least.
It was dramatic. It involved one or more extremely unusual, let's call them bizarre objects.
Peter Davenport runs the National UFO Reporting Center in Seattle. These are some of the actual drawings and renderings witnesses of the Phoenix Lights have filed.
What's often overlooked about that night is that many people say they saw things separate of this craft. Some witnesses say they saw orange or amber balls of light.
January of '97, I happened to notice 3 huge amber balls, orbs, of light in a row, equidistant from each other, far west behind the city.
Here is a rendering of those balls of light as she and others have described them.
You could see this huge orange ball of light. It was completely coherent. There was no kind of flaring of the light around it. It was very precise.
We both watched the top orb seem to disappear in place. It didn't budge at all, but it was like a dimmer switch. The only thing I can liken it to is going to another dimension.
We have pilots, we have attorneys, we have physicians, we have architects, we have members of law enforcement, we have air traffic controllers, all of whom saw the same thing at the same time. This was probably the most dramatic UFO event that I've ever heard about.
It's opened my consciousness up to realize that, you know, we have to share the universe. I don't believe that we are alone.
If it wasn't benevolent, we'd know about it a long time ago.
The question remains, what was it? I'm unable to answer that with any accuracy or with any certainty of being correct.
I don't know. I don't know. I hope they come back. When they do, it's very exciting. First off, my husband, who was also a physician, and myself had no interest or knowledge of the topic before our first sighting, which was very close to our home, literally and figuratively, right outside our bedroom window. Okay, this is the footage that I took at 10 o'clock on March 13th. They slowly disappeared, and again, the video doesn't do it justice. In real life, they're huge. It was extraordinary, very different than anything we'd ever seen.
Rumors circulated about a cosmic cover-up. The government might be hiding something. Finally, on March 13, 2000, 3 years after the Phoenix Lights sightings, the National Guard put on an air show to demonstrate that the 1997 Phoenix Lights were in fact Air Force flares and not UFOs. They parachuted down several flares in various V-shaped formations, but many thought the shapes of the flares didn't match up with the lights seen back in 1997. They noticed that many of the flares flickered and moved erratically, as opposed to the 1997 lights, which were much bigger and didn't flicker.
This is a close-up of flares, the flare drop that night. You can see they are definitely not amber orbs, and they do not stay in formation. And this is my video, again, quite significant. They stay in a line, they're equidistant from each other.
Look, UFO is unidentified flying object, and nobody doubts that there are reports of things that people can't identify. The question isn't what are UFOs, the question is, are any UFOs intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft?